Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the very last episode of this academic year of Faces of Founders. Today we have college fellow Isaac Garcia-Sitton. Welcome, and thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Catherine. Thrilled to be here.
Thank you very much. All right. The first question I have for you is please tell us about your role at Ryerson University.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I was recently appointed last September as the inaugural Executive Director of International Student Enrollment, Education, and Inclusion at the University at Ryerson. In this new role, I lead the policy, the planning, the infrastructure, the operations that drive increased international enrollment, but also the retention of the student population, help position Ryerson as a premier international urban university. And I also play an important role into, like, I like to position it sort of creating and supporting a learning ecosystem that understands and advocates international student needs and ensures that there is integrated delivery of programs for our international students, but also that helps them become responsible and more engaged global citizens as they actually transition to the Canadian workforce or as they go back to their home countries.
Wow, very good. That's a lot of intense work I can imagine, but very rewarding, I'm very sure. And has does the student population at York, is it around the same at Ryerson too, like overall, or even internationally if you just know the international statistics?
Sure. Actually, no. So the population of Ryerson, proportionate to the system, it's a lot smaller. And that's one of the reasons why they created my role. We do have the aspiration to get closer to the system average. So right now, universities in Ontario have an average of about 15% of their student body is international students. Of their total student population, about 15% they're international. And we are about 8% currently at Ryerson. So we have some great plan and aspirations to grow that significantly over the next 3 years. Where York, on the other hand, as you may know, it's a lot larger. The percentage of international students at York, it's a lot larger than 15%. Well, not a lot, but larger than 15%.
Fantastic. I know there was a lot of students, but I wasn't sure about the number, so thank you for telling us. Number two, you are also pursuing a PhD at York University. What led you to choose to do so?
Sure, that's a great question. So, as you know, and that's why my capacity of Founders College Fellow, I was at York for 5 years, and I transitioned to Ryerson back in September. Very early on, I had the opportunity to meet, to learn a lot more about the Faculty of Education and their programming, but also to meet faculty members. Most of my professional journey in higher education has been really centered around the recruitment and retention of international students and the related issues. So I knew that I wanted to contribute to our field in this area. I had the opportunity to meet with my current supervisor, Professor Rupa Trilokekar, and Professor Shah, who used to be at the time the grad studies director, and Professor Aparna, for instance, who is currently the grad studies director. So I was able to meet with many members, academic and non-academic members of the Faculty of Education. So, and learned a lot more about the PhD program. So I felt that it was what I was looking for in a program. And it also more practically gave me the opportunity to take the program part-time because I was working full-time at York. Interestingly, my office was located at Founders. So it was very convenient because, as you know, the Faculty of Education is next door. So it allowed me to be able to work full-time and then continue my studies. But overall, it was really the program that I was looking for. After doing extensive research and meeting with my current supervisors, students, and faculty members, I really was reassured that that was really the program for me. So that's sort of how I ended up pursuing my program at York. And ultimately, it also gives me the opportunity to remain connected beyond my professional relationships with the university, which it was a very important, and it remains to be a very important chapter in my journey, both personally and professionally. So I'm thrilled that I'm able to pursue my doctorate there.
You're fully committed to the students, helping students in education. That's pretty cool. You're doing it as your occupation and then as your studies too. That's really good. Good to hear. Number three, what will your PhD focus on? So it's kind of related.
Yeah, but I can tell a little bit more about it. So I'm really interested in exploring how immigration policy and related policymaking has pivoted in both the government and the post-secondary sectors during the COVID-19 pandemic
Hmm.
to continue the recruitment and retention of international students in Canada. So going back to recruitment and retention, but really from an immigration policy and related policy making. My career in Canadian post-secondary education in the last three, well, in the three institutions I've worked at McGill, at York, and now at Ryerson. And all of my roles during my journey have given me a very unique access to not only immigration issues that are impacting international students, but especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, I have been very much immersed into everything that has that sort of impacting this student population. So it's both my personal interest around supporting international students, but also my how, going back to what I said, how I can contribute to the field. This is something that I'm very passionate about.
Yes, I can tell. Do you have an expected date or year that you think you're planning to have it completed, or not too sure?
That's a difficult question that you may ask. Most of my peers take doing their doctor program. It's a quick question. I'm not sure. I probably another year and a half
Oh, nice.
or
Very good.
so. Yeah, I'm working really hard right now with uh, obviously with the support of my supervisor and my committee to finish my proposal so I can take my comprehensive examination. I would like to do that by early summer at the latest. So I'm quite busy trying to navigate, like many other people, the complexities and the ambiguity and the uncertainty of working virtually, trying to bring value to the work we do every day, and then on the other hand, try to continue my studies and stay motivated and you know see it through.
Yeah, it'll be a very proud achievement when you finish everything. I'm sure you'll be very happy.
I agreed.
Okay, thank you. Number four, what is your broader goal and how you want to impact the people around you, both through your role at Ryerson University as well as with your studies as a PhD student at York University?
Yeah, great question. So, as I said, in my role at Ryerson, because we strategically have focused for many years on domestic enrollment, now this has been a shift at the institution to look more at international student enrollment and increase the population. I really, like I said earlier, I'm really looking to build this learning ecosystem that understands the needs of international students. But I also think it's important, like many scholars, actually even more recently, Professor Rupa I mentioned in an op-ed that was published on the Global Mail, and we're all thinking about it. But I'm very happy that she was able to sort of make it more public for the general population rather than the scholars in our field. She made she published a very interesting article with two other scholars that sort of called for the reimagination of international education in post-pandemic Canada. And I couldn't agree more. I do think it's important that we start shifting the approach around international students from a deficit model where we see international students to sort of offset tuition gaps or revenue gaps or any gaps, and we look at them from a values model because they bring immense value to not only our communities but to our country and um, and in the communities that they live and sort of live in. So I think it's important that we collectively start looking at how we can make that shift more intentionally.
Oh, well, that's a fantastic perspective. Yes. And so recently in the Globe and Mail, like last month too, or how long ago
Yeah,
was it?
yeah, it was a really interesting. I would maybe 6 weeks ago or so. The last few months, it was a really good
Nice.
article, and I couldn't agree more with the underlying message.
Great. Fabulous. Okay. Number five, I believe that the power of an education can powerfully change someone's life forever. Please describe why you think that having a post secondary education is so foundational in one's future success.
Yeah, absolutely. As we all know, with more occupations, more and more occupations requiring advanced education,
Yes,
of
yes.
course, a post-secondary degree is critical to success in today's workforce. So that's just the basis of it.
Hmm.
And it can, obviously, it can help you. It will have significant impact in people's life. Anything from research, for instance, shows that post-secondary degree holders are more likely to be homeowners or to have better job satisfaction, or at a more personal level to even have better health, or more likely to have relationships or even longer relationships. So as you can see, it impacts all aspects of an individual's life. Um, but something else that I find equally important, and in some cases even more important, it is all the research also shows that these individuals are more likely to volunteer in their communities, support their communities, be more engaged with charity work. So overall, it's just sort of start defining that we are better citizens if you have or if you pursue higher education. One thing that we do know in Canada, which makes it very unique and I'm very passionate about, and that's the reason why, one of the reasons why I decided to become a permanent resident and as an adult
Hmm.
and sort of become a newcomer and an immigrant is really around Canadian values and access to education in a way. So overall, I do think that it sort of benefits not only the individual, but the collective. But if you take a step back, I know that your question is really around post-secondary education, which I wholeheartedly agree. But in general, like knowledge sort of contributes and allows you to look at understanding different perspectives, different views,
Yes, yes.
understanding one another at like a more personal level as individuals, as human, understanding different cultures, different beliefs. It just makes you more tolerant and more open um, to yourself and then to your surroundings. Um, I also believe very much in lifelong learning.
Hmm.
Of course, education doesn't necessarily begin in the classroom. It doesn't have to end there either. There is a lot of ways of continuing improving and educating ourselves through our lives. It doesn't necessarily has to be uh, formal degrees or certifications. Right now, if the pandemic showed us anything, you can have access through virtual means. And I'm really hoping that's one of the lasting effects of it, that there will be more access to education at large. Notwithstanding, of course, I'm an advocate and very passionate advocate about post-secondary education, but all I'm saying is that I think it's important that we consider education as lifelong learners beyond just a particular formal means of educating ourselves or even knowledge in general.
Yeah, and even it could be looking up learning stuff on your free time on a website. It doesn't, even if while you're in school, just to learn something different, new, makes you excited, happy. Reading a book or whatever you like. It's learning a new skill, sort of thing. There's so many things, and the internet is great for bringing you a lot of information. So yes, for sure, and definitely, wow, I never heard of that. It brings higher rates of volunteering. I never heard about that one. That's very cool.
Yeah, there's some really interesting research out there around the benefits of, and even in the US, they actually do it, well, all over the world, but the US usually publishes reports around the benefits of having, and they call it college, as you know,
Yeah, yeah.
college degrees, and what are the benefits of having college degrees. And it has beyond the more traditional sort of metrics, like I said, I don't know, increase uh, more opportunities
job.
to
Yeah,
have,
yeah.
yeah, job security or more opportunities to advance your career or even owning a house. Like, what are other benefits on a bunch of different metrics? So, yeah, it's quite interesting to see how um, it sort of improves an individual's life at large.
Extraordinary. Awesome. All right. And the unifying question of the series is, so the final question, what inspires you to study the subject field that you have chosen?
Sure. And I'll reiterate what I sort of what said. I certainly find inspiration in student stories and journeys as much as I do with immigrants and refugee stories and journeys. Um, like I said earlier, I am 1 out of 8 million immigrants in our
Mm-hmm.
country, and it's certainly not easy to leave your life behind and your home in search for a better life. In a way, I feel international students are somewhat doing that. They're in search of
Yeah.
education, and they had to leave their home countries and everything they know to move here. So I find a lot of parallels. And as you know, depending on the research, but as high as 60% of international students are looking to stay in Canada and transition to Canadian society and then the
Hmm.
workforce. So there's a lot of parallels there as well. So I'm constantly inspired by that, by those stories, by those journeys, by the resilience, by the hard work, and um, yeah, the sort of the need and the urge to make society better, the collective better, and how each individual perspective and view and the individuality and the differences and distinct differences of us all makes all the collective better. There are very few countries in the world where you can see that, and I'm not trying to paint that Canada is perfect. Of course, there's a lot of room for improvement, but just the ability or the notion to be able to sit here with you this morning and be able to say that openly without and believe in it, I believe that that sets us apart from other countries where it's more aspirational, where here it's really more about, okay, what can we do to improve it because this is our baseline, rather than let's get to that baseline closer. So yeah, that's where I get inspiration. I also, I'm constantly inspired by um, our students, but also the communities that I work in, either the immigrant communities or even my professional communities, like I just said, through my studies or even being part of the founders community. I think it's important that we all try to support one another, but ultimately to try to see how we can be better and make sure that we keep each other humble but honest and about being
Mm-hmm.
better. So yeah, I think all those things inspire me.
Thank you. So definitely we appreciate how you came from another country and now you're giving back to other people from other countries. Thank you very much for that. And that concludes our interview. So I really appreciate you coming on in the last episode here. So you got the finale all to yourself. Thank you for sharing all your what you're doing at Ryerson and how what you're doing in your PhD, and wishing you the best of luck for the completion of your PhD and the rest of virtual learning slash working until the pandemic's over. Um, Thank you all against the viewers for tuning in once again. Thank you so much for coming and have an awesome rest of your day. Bye,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you so much, Catherine,
You're welcome.
and very well done. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, see you later. Bye, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us for this new show that we've had at Founders. I really had a blast interviewing all of these people and learning about all of their stories and what they're studying and their positions if they have them at York or their student council members and learning more about them. It's truly been a pleasure. And I've had a lot of fun learning how to edit better and being able to create the best episodes possible to be able to share them with you all online on Instagram and to be able to give you a sort of connectivity during the pandemic. And it has really been nice. And to hear all of you engaging on the Instagram that they really enjoyed the show and what they learned and what really resonated with them. It's been absolutely fantastic. I've really enjoyed being your host and being able to bring all these stories together for you for this academic year. So thank you for every single view, like, comment, share. Uh, if you follow the account, thank you for every one of those things. It means the world to us. And you have just witnessed the beginning of this awesome show. And can't wait to see what's next. Thank you so much. And for the very last time, don't forget, knowing your community forges stronger unity.